Okay, so we are starting with Unit 5, and our first video topic for Unit 5 is ratios and rates. Alright, in the state of California, for every 15 people that can vote, who are eligible to vote, who have the ability and opportunity to vote, 10 people do vote, and 5 people just choose not to. That's 5 out of every 15 people that for whatever reason just decide that it's not worth their time, or for some reason they just decide not to vote. So all of the hard work and effort that was put into giving us freedom and the rights that we have as American citizens, these 5 people are just tossing that out the window. 5 out of 15 people. That's kind of crazy. That's 1 out of every 3 people if you reduce 5/15ths, isn't it? Well, let's look at 5 over 15ths. This is a ratio. It's a ratio because it compares two numbers. It compares the number of people who can vote to the number of people who don't vote. All a ratio is it's a comparison of two numbers. A ratio is a comparison of two different numbers. So here's another example. Let's say gentlemen, let me talk to you for a second. Gentlemen, let's say you go to a party and there's 30 people at a party. Of those 30 people, how many would you prefer to be female? Let's say a good number for that would be 20 girls, which would mean there are 10 guys. That seems like a pretty good ratio. That would be a 20 to 10 ratio of girls to guys. Now, you're probably smart enough to know that that's a 2 to 1 ratio, right? So, are ratios just like fractions? Basically, yeah. Can you reduce ratios? Yeah. But unlike fractions, we wouldn't take 2 over 1 as a ratio and reduce it to just the whole number 2. With ratios, you actually leave them improper. And that's okay because a ratio is a comparison of two different numbers, so you have to have both numbers there. You don't want to simplify it into a single number. Alright, so this party has a 2 to 1 girl to guy ratio. And we can write it like that or like that because a ratio can be written as a fraction or using a colon or using the word 2, like 2 to 1 ratio. I think you probably already knew all that stuff, but it's good to know how to write ratios in any of those 3 different formats. Alright, 2 to 1 ratio. In this example that we just had, it was 2 girls for every guy. But that could represent a whole bunch of different things. Instead of just showing 2 people to 1 person, what if your 2 to 1 ratio meant 2 Starbucks for every 1 street corner? Or 2 Reese's peanut butter cups for every $1 that you spend? Can a ratio represent things that are different, like instead of comparing the number of people to the number of other people, can a ratio compare the number of peanut butter cups to the number of dollars? Sure, that kind of a ratio is called a rate. A rate is a ratio that compares quantities in different units, or you could say a rate is a ratio that compares two different kinds of numbers. Like 5 pizzas for every 20 people would be a rate, because it's comparing pizzas and people instead of people and people. Okay, so 5 pizzas to 20 people is a rate, and you could actually reduce that and say that would be 1 pizza for every 20 people. It's still a rate because you're comparing pizzas and people. Here's another example. If you go to the grocery store and you're stocking up on orange juice, you might pay $4.99 for 96 ounces of orange juice. That price is actually a rate because it compares the number of dollars that you spend to the number of ounces of orange juice that you get. But if you're at the store, you don't have to buy 96 ounces of orange juice. Maybe right next to that, there's a 64-ounce orange juice that's a little bit cheaper. That's still a rate, it's just a different rate. So let's look at those two rates. How do you decide which orange juice to buy? Let's say you drink a lot of orange juice, so you don't really mind spending more money and getting more orange juice, but you don't really mind spending less money and getting less orange juice. You just want to spend the money to get the best deal you possibly can. This is where unit rates come in. A unit rate is a ratio that has a denominator of 1. Meaning, instead of $4.99 for 96 ounces, I want to know how much money do I spend for 1 ounce of orange juice. Okay, all you have to do in this case is divide top divided by bottom. We're going to do 4.99 divided by 96, and you get approximately 5 cents per 1 ounce. You can try that on your calculator. Just put 4.99 divided by 96, and you'll have to round it, but it comes out to about 5 cents. What if I took the smaller carton of orange juice and did 2.59 divided by 64? I would get about 4 ounces for that. Okay, or sorry, 4 cents per ounce for that. These are both unit rates. A unit rate is a dollars per ounce instead of dollars per 96 ounces, or dollars per ounce instead of dollars per 64 ounces. And it's really helpful because in this case you can tell which orange juice is a better deal. Would you rather spend 5 cents per ounce, or would you rather spend 4 cents per ounce? Okay? This is the cheaper orange juice because it's 4 cents an ounce instead of 5 cents an ounce. So you might as well buy that one and save 1 cent for every ounce that you buy. Kind of makes sense. Here's another example. Earlier in my life, I used to drive a Chevy S10 pickup truck. And I liked that truck, but at some point I decided to get married and have kids, and pickup trucks don't really work too good for that with car seats and all that kind of stuff. So, at least when I upgraded to a little sedan, my Toyota Corolla, in exchange for my manhood and manliness, I thought I would be getting better gas mileage. In other words, I used to get about 300 miles out of every 15 gallons of gas in my truck. Then, in my Corolla, I figured out that I was getting about 250 miles out of every 12 gallons. I was going less miles, but it was because the gas tank was smaller. So I want to figure out which of these two vehicles gets more miles per gallon. Well, all you have to do is 300 divided by 15, and my truck got 20 miles per gallon. The Corolla gets 250 divided by 12, which is about 20.8 miles per gallon. So which one does better with gas? Well, for every 1 gallon of gas, I go further in my Corolla than I did in my old pickup truck. And the whole point here is that unit rates are really helpful for comparing two different kinds of rates. Okay? So if you're trying to compare and contrast with two different rates, unit rates are helpful because they kind of break it down per gallon or per dollar or per ounce. Alright, so to review, a ratio is a comparison of two different numbers, any two kind of numbers. A ratio can be written as what? You tell me. A ratio can be written as, oh yeah, a fraction with a colon or with the word to. Rate is a ratio of what? Rate is a ratio of two different kinds of numbers. And then a unit rate is a ratio that has a denominator of 1. Okay, here's your practice problems. First, write a ratio comparing the number of academic classes that you have to the number of non-academic classes you have. You know, like English and math and stuff versus electives and PE and stuff. Oh yeah, and be sure to write that ratio in 3 different formats. Practice problem number 2. Which of these 3 is a rate? And then I've got one more practice problem for you. If you spend $21 for 7 magic beans, find the unit rate per magic bean. That's all I got. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.